Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have LD with us today. And you're watching Glenda's Dragon's Den. Yes, I know you guys missed him, and he decided to help me out and come back today.
You're just going to have to sight that scope in a little better next time.
So, thank you for supporting us and every week coming back and listening and sharing. The more you share, the more people will get to see it and enjoy it like you do. Tonight we have a great guest, which I am sure many know, but he finally was gracious enough to agree to be on our show. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. Ken DeCosta, how are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you
Well,
tonight.
thank you for being had.
My pleasure.
So, tell us about you and how
About
you.
me.
Yes.
Well, I like long walks on the beach.
Do you like margaritas or pina coladas?
I'm a Virgo. No, as you know, as far as getting into the field and stuff like that,
Right.
I've always been interested. I guess I kind of started off with the UFO stuff when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And then eventually that got into cryptids, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. I wasn't too keen on the ghost thing, if you can believe it or not. It's like, yeah, stay away from that stuff. But it just seemed like all roads led here. So I actually started investigating and research when I was about 18 years old. So that means this will be coming up on 50 years of this insanity. And that was the first time that I ever got to visit a allegedly haunted location and was able to talk to someone who had these experiences. Because up until then, I mean, back when I was a wee lad, I mean, there were no cell phones and internet. This was the dark ages, there was cave carvings and that's all we had.
Mhm.
So, occasionally you'd see these things on television, rarely. And you read books about it. So it piqued my interest. And that's when I decided, hey, it would be pretty nice to actually go out to these places and kind of make up my own mind as to what's happening here. I was pretty green at the time. I think we probably did more to scare ourselves than anything else. But, eventually you gain some experience from that hands-on. And then things started to change where there was more information available. And able to evolve a little bit and look at things from both sides. So, yeah, it's been a long, strange trip, as they say. And Rise Up Paranormal was actually started in 2007 with my son, another young man that I had actually coached in Little League and went to school with his father, and a couple of their other classmates from Rhode Island College. And we all got together and decided, let's just pool our interests. And, so that was the first time actually I was involved in a group.
Mm.
So that's about it. I mean, coming to it, I had experiences, or one really profound one when I was about 12, 13. But that's not really what got me into this. It was just an interest, it wasn't like some event happened and I have to go out and find more.
Right.
So everybody comes to it in different ways. Mine was just, just this curiosity about the phenomena more than anything, because the event that I did have at that age just scared the heck out of me. And I didn't want anything to do with it for years. And it wasn't until, oh my God, I was married about 20 years when I finally told my wife, it's like, I got a story for you. She always knew I was into this, and she's been very tolerant over the years, believe me.
So, you were saying that first you were more into UFOs and cryptics.
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
When I was a kid, astronauts were still heroes back then.
Mhm.
Like right now, a shuttle goes up or SpaceX goes up, and we're all kind of go, ho hum, what's next? But back when I was a kid, I mean, 7, 8 years old, I remember John Glenn, I remember Gemini, Mercury, all of that. And this was like Buck Rogers come to life,
Mm.
and I was just, I was so enthralled with that kind of thing that we're going into space because, excuse me, these are the things that you read about and suddenly is our reality.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, this other thing came up. Like, what are these things that are flying around? This is interesting. So,
Mhm.
the interest it was on that same level, but it went towards something else. And I had a cousin who was into magazines like Fate magazine, Popular Mechanics, and they would run these UFO stories. And I read everything that I could get my hands on. I think I was 10 and reading Project Blue Book at the time. I didn't know it was all a bunch of nonsense, you know. So, yeah, that's how I kind of got into it, and very interested in that. Still am. I
Mm.
still am. I give presentations for MUFON in Massachusetts, and I'm involved with them. So I never really left it behind. The whole thing kind of fascinates me and frustrates me at the same time in
Mm.
terms of the government's handling of it and disclosure and all the nonsense we're being fed right now. But there is something at the end of the day that we can't identify that's in our skies. It's unidentified. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's extraterrestrial or what it is, but it's definitely a concern.
Mhm.
Fascinating topic. And then, of course, Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster were that followed. Um, just always been interested in the mystery about things, like things we can't explain. I kind of always been drawn to that. In between baseball games and normal stuff that a boy does where I grew up.
Mm.
I think it's where you approach this, the place you approach it from, that, kind of made me want to be like you when I grew up. And I still want to be like you when I grow up. You have such, I don't want to say it's a laissez-faire attitude about it, but you just look at it for what it is. Don't try to read into it. Don't try to take power from it or give power to it. You just try to, as far as I can tell, stay in the center and see, from the center what's out there.
Yeah, I think that's important. And, it wasn't always like that because every little bump is a ghost, every little shadow is a ghost. And, as you go on a little bit and the stories you hear get a little crazier and implausible, that you start to become a little bit more objective, which is a great thing. So eventually, I just see myself as someone who's more of a documentarian than anything else. Not that we're making videos and movies, but you're trying to record something audibly or visually or photographically and try to put yourself in the same position as the people who claim to have these experiences.
Mhm.
So we never go in saying, okay, here's what's going on, here's the final word. We don't know what the final word is. So I've always tried to stay objective. That is, and pragmatic is probably a better word for it. Now, I've had my experiences like anyone else has that makes you go, wow, there is something beyond this mortal coil, definitely. But every place we go to is treated as a new night, a new investigation, a new chance to document, even if we've been to the same place 10 times. Every time is a snowflake, it's its own fingerprint. Everything may be the same, everything may be different. So I think that that's my approach, LD, more than anything else. Stay objective, stay within yourself, stay in your own body, stay where your feet are. Don't get too carried away. Don't let suggestion play into it, and just be as objective and unbiased as you possibly can, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to bear more fruit. So, I mean, but that's just me. That's just me. I don't, have any problems if people are more spiritual, more metaphysical, whatever the case may be. Room for everybody, but it works for me.
Well, the one thing about this industry, and it's become an industry, unfortunately or unfortunately,
Mm.
is that people let it go to their heads and they identify with it as if they are it or can control it.
Mhm.
And you don't. So, how have you maintained that balance? What is it about you that allows you to go out there and not try to convince the person next to you that they saw what you saw, you know, that you are able to treat every investigation as if it is completely unique and unto itself, because that's what we do, and to us they are.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, LD, but I would just say that it comes from experience more than anything else. Different circumstances, different situations that come up, because I'm an observer as well, and I see what it does to people.
Mhm.
I see where contagion comes in. If someone sees a shadow, pretty soon the other 5 people see the shadow. Maybe it's absolutely valid, or maybe everybody just wants to be part of it. Whatever it is, the human mind plays a lot into projections and things like that. So we got to be cognizant that we're not infallible,
Mhm.
that our mind can play tricks on us. Doesn't mean we're being misleading. It doesn't mean that we're making up stuff. It could be just a simple misidentification. So all of those things go into the idea when you walk in, you don't allow yourself to be influenced by things. And it's easier said than done. It takes time and it takes practice, because you can get all the background research and some of the heinous things that have gone on in this location. And as soon as you walk in, that can prey on your mind. You just have to get to a point where you got to work past it. I like information going into it. I want all the background. I want to know everything, but it takes a little bit of mind over matter, I guess. Kind of like self-convincing that we're not going to let that suggestion into our heads. Um, and I've been fortunate to be part of a lot of people we've brought in that have that same type of mentality. We don't have a lot of kids, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but a new generation of investigators that's coming into this field. Their template has been television, social media, streaming, YouTube, all the rest of this. This is how they came to this field. So, of course, they are going to emulate a lot of that. And I can't say as I blame them for it. I may not agree with their approach, but it's always been the same. The delivery system, I guess what I'm trying to say, is different now than it was back then.
Mhm.
So I like when I came up, how I did it, not knowing everything, not being exposed to too many things, and just having it all be organic. I think that was an advantage for me,
Mhm.
very much so, to be able to just kind of focus on the job, so to speak, whatever it is that we're supposed to accomplish wherever we are that particular night.
Mhm. Yes, that's the way I like to go about everything. I prefer not knowing, though. I prefer not researching if I can help it.
I
Not
understand.
research ahead, because there's always going to be somebody who is going to say, "Oh, we saw this, this, and this," and the mind is the mind. We're human, so I try not to go in
Right.
there with any information. And I, for me, that's the way I've been able to do it, and have gotten a lot more fruit, as you say.
Right.
But it's great. That's basically it's the same way.
I think one of the things that's been very freeing to me is I don't care about proving anything to science anymore. That used to be a big thing.
Mm,
But we have to prove it. We have to prove it. Spoiler alert, you can prove anything. Science isn't going to buy into it.
mhm.
Okay. Debunkers might, skeptics might. Science, people who are trained as scientists, they're not going to buy into it. Some have. But I gave up on that a long time ago. You know, a personal experience is a personal experience. In the beginning, I got into it because I had questions. I still feel that way, because you can put anything you want out there for peer review. And when I do, I've asked every question before I put it out there that I think is going to happen. Could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be this? Could it be that? Okay, I'm going to put it out there anyway. And it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. And it's not that I get frustrated by it, but I just think it's a colossal waste of time at some point. So I would rather deal with the people who were kind enough to invite us in
Mhm.
to a place and answer our own questions. And sometimes you got to get used to the fact that you're going to go to your grave knowing the truth, one way or the other. And you have to reconcile that and be comfortable with it. So, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Mhm.
Well, I actually take the step if I'm running an investigation. First of all, no Ouija boards. We're not a big fan of Ouija boards for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't want the team, unless it's a safety concern, talking to each other and planting that. I want them each to document their experience. And then afterwards, we can brainstorm and download and do all of that from what we've gotten. But I find personally that it helps not to taint the evidence. And what Glenda does as well is she'll go into a place and she'll actually get information specific enough that then if there's a historian as part of the location, the historian will then research it and be able to document from what Glenda's told them the actual facts, and we can verify it after the fact from the information Glenda's given them. We've had that happen on several occasions.
Right.
So that's our way of trying to keep it from being tainted. What do you do when you walk into a famous location and realize it's not what it says?
Mm. That happens more often than we think there is. Without naming a lot of names, because look, I mean, I'm going to assume obviously something happened to someone
Right.
or a lot of someone's at this location. It's not a guarantee of success. To me, it all depends how you define success, right? If success means we got all this evidence and these voices and pictures, and if that's success, that's fine. Success to me means that we did everything the right way. We set up the right way. We handled ourselves the right way. We documented everything the right way. And whether we got something or not, I call that success. No mistakes or, minimizing mistakes,
Right.
enjoying ourselves, having a good time.
Mhm.
To me, that's success. But there are places that, you know how it is. I mean, if it was as easy as please do something, well, I mean, I would sell all the equipment at this point and, move on, but it's not. So I think that we've all been there where some of the most, and I get asked, what is, the scariest place you've ever been to? And I can't really tell you a place has been scary. There's been some spooky things that have happened that are startling. But some of the places that have been the most profound are little out of the way places no one's ever heard of, or it could be a residence, could be an office building. There's nothing iconic about it. But when we have the chance to, go to a place that's on the bucket list,
Right.
sure, I'll take the opportunity to go there because I enjoy the idea of, well, let's see what happens to us.
Mhm.
But I won't say, like a lot of people do, it's a quiet night. The place is a dud. People are making up stuff. Yeah, I won't go that far. It's a hit and miss proposition. So a lot of times maybe our approach is different, or we don't get as excited about something, a noise or a sound or whatever. But hey, that's just the hit and miss aspect of everything. And we've been to some iconic places that have been wow. They lived up to, their reputation, and other times not.
I believe that sometimes spirit just takes a vacation like we do.
Right. Yeah. I call them when we go to investigations. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're, we're just kind of away,
Right.
pleasure slash business trip, but we do it for ourselves.
Mhm.
We're doing a little bit more of that where, we're not always called in, so to speak.
Mhm.
Would you like to come here? Or, you know, we're at the point, I think, in our lives now that we're doing what we want to do
Mhm.
with who we want to do it with. Sorry about my phone going off here. Um, and if it means that we all get together and take off to Maine, or, just take off and go somewhere because we want to go to this particular place, there comes a time in life where you want to do that.
Right.
So you're not waiting around for the phone to ring, but we're doing what we want to do because I think we've earned that.
Mhm.
Do you ever find yourself unwelcome? And I don't mean from the spirits, I mean from the owner entrepreneur.
Many times, Oldie, many times. And I probably should, I'll frame it like this: 99% of the time, we'll have a call from someone, and let's stick with residences.
Mhm.
We will get a call, say, from the woman of the house, and maybe their kids and her, or whatever, they're experiencing something. And it's very credible. And we'll spend some time on the phone, and I'll let them tell their story before I even ask questions because I don't want to influence them. You tell me your whole story first, and then I'll ask you specific questions. And we're all set to go. And 99% of the time, it's the husband who does not want you there. And I don't know if it's a male thing where, I don't need this guy in here protecting my family. I can protect my family. It's like, okay. Or a lot of times I get, well, my husband doesn't want you to come because he thinks you're going to stir things up. I don't know what he thinks that we're going to do in there. We're not going to conjure anything. I mean, but I think this is a lot of times where people get a little or a lot of bad information from television, social media. The behaviors on these things, they start to project them on us like, well, this is what you're going to do. No, I'm not going to stand on your stairs and ask somebody to push me down or hit me or scratch me, or it's not what we do. But sometimes, that's the yin and yang,
Right.
because, it's great because people are more open to talking about it now. But on the other hand, their expectations of what it is we actually do, it's like, believe me, it's mind-numbingly boring.
Mhm.
We're not there to summon anything, to conjure anything. But yeah, there have been a couple of instances where we have gone into the home and the husband is just going around and, just making us feel really uncomfortable. So that's why, as part of our investigation, and it's great that you mentioned this, I will ask, how does everybody feel about this, and how is everybody on board with it?
Mhm.
Are they on board with it? Let's just get that out of the way right now, because I'm trying to help you. We don't charge for anything. We're going to
Right.
get a group of people to leave their homes and their families and go to try to make sense of what's going on there. And if it's a mundane explanation, great, best possible outcome.
Right.
There's no ghosts. You're not haunted. It's the pipes, the electric. It's right. But I've been in those situations before. They are awkward and they're not comfortable at all. And I also feel bad for the people who call asking for help, because you know that they're kind of being pushed down too,
Mhm.
and suppressed. So, but it happens, small percentage of time. Small percentage of time. I know I said, a lot of times. No, it's not really a lot of times, but it's less and less because we ask that question now before
Right.
we go in. If we're not welcome, then I understand.
Mhm.
Maybe there's another way. Talk to me over the phone. Maybe I can, help you that way.
Mm. Yes, I been in situations where, and it is usually the male of the family, the husband or the father or the grandfather, the eldest male of the family.
Yeah.
Uh, but
I don't know if it's a
I
guy,
usually,
or
and you could be right. It could be the whole, I could protect my family thing.
I think a lot of times that's what it is. Or maybe that there's a fear or an anxiety there that they don't want to admit to.
Mm,
And that's where the idea of, well, he doesn't want you to stir anything up.
mhm.
Maybe it's too much TV, maybe it's not enough TV. But I think that you get that from people who are suddenly dealing with something that they never thought was possible.
Right.
And here we are. So I don't want to get in the middle of a family thing. You guys work it out. If you change your mind, I'm here. That's the way I leave it.
Mm, very good. I'm glad that you decided to start asking that question.
And what about a marquee place that you say you're going where you want to go now?
Mhm.
Uh, have there been any marquee places? I'm not going to ask you to name them, so I'm not trying to. That you said, yeah, we'd like to come. No, we don't want you here.
Um, Not that I can recall, because typically those places either invite us in,
Mhm.
or if they're handled by an owner, that's usually not a problem. I mean, you may have the staff that's more anxious to get you in because they're experiencing these things. And then if that, well, go talk to your boss, whoever owns this place.
Right.
So those seem to work out. Or like I say, we're invited, which means we're welcome. Or if it's run by a board of directors, maybe there's one or two that are into it, and they can be your liaison with the rest of the board. So typically, we've never had a problem with that. The biggest problem we ever had was being invited to investigate a military base where everything was hush hush. We were not to speak of this. Too much time has passed. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but
No,
Oh no,
no,
please.
please don't.
we had to check in and the whole 9 yards, and they had our names, and we had clearance to go in and things like that. And it's not that the brass knew about it, it's just that the non-coms there were kind of like, there's some weird stuff going on here. So we got to go after hours and things like that. But usually, not too many problems with the iconic places. We pick and choose based on the reputation. Not so much it's haunted or not haunted, but what others say about it.
Mm.
Like, don't bother to go there. Don't deal with those people, whatever the case may be. And I don't want to fly or drive 5 hours to be disappointed.
Right.
So we try to go to places that are legit, that are run by good people who embrace this, welcome people in. Our only caveat is that we like to rent the entire place, whatever it is. I don't do well with in 50, 60, 70 people. I I'm not good at that. I don't do well with that. So if we can rent a bed and breakfast or, an inn or whatever the case may be, or prison, I don't care. I would rather be, like I said, with people I want to be with, doing what we all know we need to do.
Mhm. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Well, people are so apt to instigate now that I don't want to go to a place where someone's instigating, because we do just the opposite. We do remediation and resolution. We're not interested in stirring things up. We're interested in finding out why things got stirred up, and finding a happy median, and try to resolve that so that everybody can be peaceful there together.
Especially in residentials.
Oh yeah.
Yes. We try to. Okay, how can we help you? What is it that you need on that side? Okay, what is it that you need on this side? And we try to bring everybody so everybody can live happy and calm.
If there's a hallmark, if there's one thing that distinguishes us, and we're not the only ones, we're not unique in this regard, but it's the thing that keeps coming back to me is respect that we show, our approach. That it works for me, because I try to put myself in the mindset that I'm talking to another person in this realm, because they were at one point. And it could be the most innocuous questions, whatever the case may be. I let them know that, listen, we're not going to ask you to do parlor tricks for us. You move that candle, drop that book, we will ask if anyone's in any distress. Is there something we can do to help? And try to speak in the present, like, not did you have children? It's like, do you have children? Are your children with you? How are your children in present form?
Right.
And the one question that I get cringy is, how did you die?
Well, you know how I answer that.
There's something about that question when I know they don't mean anything by it, and it seems like a pretty standard question.
Right.
But how did you die?
Yeah, that's a trigger for me too. I just say they stop breathing, and let's move on. Yeah, because beyond that, it's a trauma, and it may be an unresolved trauma. And again, that to me, that's instigation.
Well, there was a time.
Tell me.
There was a time. Right, you're right. You're absolutely right. There was a time that we spent many times, because I lived about 7 minutes away from where I was, from the Lizzie Borden house. And all those years, we'd never set foot in it. And all of a sudden, we were there 12 times. We decided to go in, and I said, listen, we're not going to relitigate a murder trial. She liked animals. She was in the Women's Guild. She taught Sunday school. And let's call her Lisbeth, which was her actual name. Let's do that.
Right.
Because there's only, after the first 20,000 times that someone's asking you to confess to your father and stepmother's murders, I would imagine that gets pretty aggravating after a while. So we talked about her love of pets. We talked about her work with the church, about all her, and there were some remarkable things that happened. Go figure. We just came at it from a different angle, because I always put myself in the case, well, we're going to this place. There have been 500,000 people that have gone into this place, and they all asking the same questions. And when this group is done, they leave, and the next group comes in, asks the same questions, then they leave. And it's like, so how do we distinguish ourselves? Like, listen, we're not special, but here's what we want to know.
Right.
Want to know about your job? Want to know about your kids? Hey, your son ended up going to law school, didn't he? That's why I like information, because I can come in right off the street and say, hey, I'm looking for Tom here. Tom, are you here? I wanted to ask you about Jeffrey, your son, the lawyer. What would I want to hear about? I want to talk about my kids, right?
Right.
So you just try to, that's to me, that's the mindset you want to be in. And like I said, it's not for everybody. That's fine, to each their own. Don't be a jerk, but that seems to work for me, because I don't think you get any people will disagree with me. They'll say taking an aggressive stance, you get more back. Well, then you're just looking for evidence then.
Right.
You're not looking to build relationships or anything. You're one and done. You're coming here yelling at people. Hopefully they yell back, you record it, and you're never going back there again.
Right.
Okay.
And that to me is
Abusive.
Abusive. Because I would be very angry if somebody came into my house and asked me to throw a book or demand that I push them down or anything like that. I'd be like, yeah, I'll push you down, but it ain't going to be pretty.
And the beauty for us, and I know you know a little bit about Glenda, is Glenda knows pretty much what's there before we walk in, and so she has those names, a lot of the times, and so coming in with that, we don't have to get anyone else's, and it's more powerful for them when we tell them things that they didn't know.
Right.
But one sticks in my mind is we were going to a place, and the owner says, "I make sure you wear iron." I'm like, "What? You got fairies?"
Well, there have been occasions that, whether it's recordings, because we pick up everything. We got cameras everywhere. We got microphones everywhere. We're not techie, because I think less is more.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. We've gotten away from waving a ton of gizmos around that probably don't work anyway. So we're into more audio and visual stuff. So every camera has a microphone on it. It's still a condenser microphone. It's still the same thing. And every once in a while, you get a spirit asking you a question. Isn't that the best?
It is.
Where like we're droning on and on and on and on, and all of a sudden, on rare occasions, you get a question back. It's like, oh my God, this is like, okay, this is the best, So that, to me, that's a conversation.
That's a relationship.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing. I mean, you're basically lecturing the ghost for like an hour, telling him all this knowledge that you have of things that you don't understand, but you're not, you're not building that bridge. So you're absolutely right. You're now we're making a connection here. So I wish it happened more than it did. But
Well, going to the famous movie, sometimes they don't know they're dead. The toughest question I ever got was from a kid who'd been killed in a car accident, who literally said, "Am I dead?" And so I said, "Well, when was the last time you ate?" Yeah. Yeah.
This way.
And fortunately, he then allowed himself to be, go to the light, because he hadn't been, that long, and the things that were keeping him here, we explained to him, and and that's the money shot for us, is when we can, get an entity to relax enough to go home.
Right.
And we never make them, of course, but
And
Yeah.
some people, we do a lot of residential more than actual businesses and stuff like that, or at least I do. And that's part of, okay, do you need to cross over? Do you need to go into like, why are you still here? Can I help you? And I find that starting giving them those kinds of questions throws them off. Instead of they were like, okay, we're going to fight, you're going to make me want to do this, and I'm like, no. I don't want you to get angry. I just want you to explain to me why you're still here.
Right. Well, the way we are, we like to label things because it makes us feel like we're in control.
Mhm.
of something we're not in control with. So
Right.
that's why we call it intelligent, demonic, poltergeist,
Right.
residual. We give everything a title because that makes us feel like we're putting everything in order. But I mean, you know how it is. There can be combinations of those things.
Mhm.
There can be a combination of residual and intelligent too. Things people see that are either time slips or recorded in the environment, however that happens. Or then there can be an acknowledgement where, you see someone or you're called by name or, you make eye contact in the most profound of situations where you see, an apparition, which I think three. I think I've only got three in 50 years, folks. So I must be doing something wrong. It's kind of like the demonic. It's another question I get. I've had people call me with claims of the demonic. I do not believe in all the years I've done this, I've ever encountered something demonic.
I only
I
encountered.
honestly do not. And I don't think it's because, wow, here comes Ken. We better run. It's like, yeah, they don't care. But this is why I don't understand how some people have one a month or
I believe that's just very pissed off spirit. You know, to just say it that way. But
yeah,
no, they're my experience.
right.
I don't believe they're as often as people say they are.
Mhm. Well, I think a lot of times people self-diagnose themselves based on things they've seen or read. If there's three flies in the house, oh my God, it's an infestation. Um, so there's a lot of self-diagnosis, and then the anxiety level goes up. So
Mhm,
I always thought that the biggest part of our job is to take away the anxiety, not introduce fear.
mhm,
And a dirty little secret, a lot of times individuals or groups will go in to introduce fear because they can control people. Fear is a very controlling thing. That's a dirty little secret of the paranormal. Where
mhm.
I'd like to go in and say, sure, I want a cup of coffee. You're going to have a cup of coffee? I'll have a cup of coffee. And then maybe make a joke, not distasteful,
Right.
but just so people can think it's like, well, wow, this guy's not freaking out. So
Right.
maybe I can relax a little bit. If I come in throwing holy water and crucifixes around and doing ceremonies on their lawn and stuff like that, it's like, I don't think I'm doing these people any favors. People are already, I would rather talk them down because it's easier to go from 60 to 0 than it is 0 to 60.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
just so they're already here. So, like I said, right at the beginning, I think that's what experience does to you. Um, it's just kind of the way I was raised. I give my parents credit for anything I do that's right as far as dealing with people.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because my family was in public service and it's kind of the way we were brought up a little bit. Just,
Mhm,
show a little compassion. I have a button, but I'm much
mhm.
better at controlling it now in my older age than I was at one point.
Yes, yeah. Experience teaches one to let go of a lot of things. It's just like, yeah, okay, that's your problem right now. It's not
Yeah, no, I like I said, you reach a point, it's like, I want to do what I want to do.
right.
I can't be bothered with, I just can't be bothered with the noise out there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's there are things a lot more fun that I have in mind that I'd like to do. So
Well, now that you've won our audience over, uh, how can they find out more about you? What's in the future for you? Is there anything you'd like to promote?
um eventually I will have a book out there because I'm getting beaten to death by people like Andrea Perrin and John Zaffis, and you have to write a book. You got to write a book. So I don't know. In a quiet moment, maybe next winter when I'm not playing golf or something. Um, if you want to hear more of this, you can always join us on Dead Air Full Spectrum on YouTube and KGRA Digital. That's every Sunday night from 8 to 10. And we have a lot of things on our channel, not just us, but there are a lot of different shows and a lot of different people with a lot of great perspectives. As far as our group, you can reach me at riseupparanormal.com. Go to our website, or you can find us on Facebook. And don't ever be a stranger, even if it's just to say hello. We'll always respond, because we're not that big that we don't have time for everybody. So those are the places you can find us. And we used to do a lot of public events and things like that, and we've kind of moved away from them a little bit. After 11 years at one location and 10 years doing a charity paranormal conference in Rhode Island, we're just getting a little older and, moving on now to different things, because normally I'd be plugging both of those things right now. But, we're just kind of taking a step down from those type of things, and, time to find something a little bit different.
Now, are you still connected to the charity, or is that connection severed?
No, actually, it was the Ocean State Paracon.
Right.
And every year we chose a different recipient.
Mhm.
It could be the Wounded Warrior Project, autism, domestic violence, muscular dystrophy, child advocacy programs, grieving programs for kids who have lost somebody. We were doing it for, oh God, last year, not Ronald McDonald House, but the Tomorrow Fund, which pays the bills of families that someone in the family has cancer and they need constant care, and maybe they have to leave their job, so they take care of a lot of the bills for them. And I think what we'd like to do is keep that going, but do something a little bit different going forward as a fundraiser, because we're lucky enough to know a lot of the best comedians in our region, and they put together these kind of programs where they'll put on a dinner and you'll see 4 or 5 different comics do a set, and they raise a lot of money that way. So we can still keep one toe in and help advocate in the community without leaving too much of ourselves out there. We're all getting old, so we'll probably be doing something like that moving forward, because I always like that the paranormal community, the paranormal in general, is in mainstream now. So why not do stuff like this
Right.
in the community, rather than let's go just find a ghost, we say we help people. Help comes in a lot of different forms.
Right.
Not just finding the ghosts. So
That's
hopefully
very
we'll be able to stay with that in a different form.
Now, how do you feel about how the UFO phenomena has dovetailed into the paranormal phenomena?
The crossover, you mean?
Yes.
Like at Skinwalker Ranch?
Okay.
I am not very confident in the information that we're being given.
Okay.
And this is a whole story, and we're actually thinking of having somebody on one of our shows and going over this with them, because when people like Oswald and ATIP get $22 million to investigate, they call them UAPs now. That money goes right in the pocket of a contractor. It has nothing to do with the federal government. It's given to someone like Bob Bigelow, who creates a company called BASS, or Base, to go out to Skinwalker Ranch, which he owned at the time. So he takes the 22 million and ends up looking for poltergeists and werewolves and things like that. So what you're hearing in the mainstream media right now about these Senate hearings and everything, it's a bunch of bad information, because they don't even know the program's name or when it started. So they've been given a lot of disinformation and have spread a lot of disinformation. But the idea that nothing's coming of it, can we honestly say we're surprised? You know, they've had a 70 or 80-year head start on this stuff. So everything's compartmentalized. I can only tell you this. So you got to go talk to this person to get this much. Well, he can only tell you this. So I'm looking for the one person. Is there anybody out there who knows everything?
I'm sure there is.
Who are they? So I don't know how that all ties in. I know there's a unified paranormal theory where all of this stuff, UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, it's all of the same thing, but we're not furthering this through government hearings and stuff like that. We are getting more baloney than anything else, which shouldn't surprise anybody.
Yeah. They've been doing it so many years.
Oh, got an 80-year head start on us, you know.
Well, one of my favorite sobering quotes comes from the 50s. And there are times I almost think I am not sure of what I absolutely know. Very often find confusion in conclusion I concluded long ago. And if you're in this business and that's not your mindset, then you're not doing yourself any favors and you're not going to get any truth.
And the funny part about it is I am not really a conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, there's some crazy stuff out there. But I still hedge my bets, you know, just doesn't mean you have to be looking over your shoulder. Doesn't mean everything is out to get you, but you know, a little common sense sometimes, which is in short supply. Sorry to say.
Yep, you're speaking truth, though.
But common sense is a very individual thing. See, when I went to college, I went to the first college to have a full-service bar on campus in New York. And one of the things I learned at college was how to bartend because, hey, it was there, and that's, you know, life skill to me. And the guy said, well, you're not using common sense behind the bar. I said, I've never been behind the bar, so I don't know what common sense behind the bar looks like. Why don't you teach me?
Well, that's why you're not a lawyer, because you never passed the bar.
Right.
You know, guilty.
As a paralegal or ex-paralegal, I can agree with you, Ken.
I'll link to that.
It was set up on a tee. I had to take the swing.
No, please.
Please,
you
yeah.
are right. But it's true. It's all how you word it, how you look at it, how you mold it.
Now, is there any place that you can name, because I'm sure there are some that you can't, that you would really like to spend some unrestricted time at to do research?
Tons. With no particular specific location, there are two places. There is Savannah, Georgia. I would love to go to Savannah. It's amazingly, I mean, the history there is a town literally built on the dead.
Mm-hmm.
As some say, New Orleans is. Not so much New Orleans. You know, Savannah appeals to me. And I would love to get over to England. Because we get a house here that's 300 years old and we go, ooh. And they got places over there that are 15,000 years old that are like, you know, we get all excited about it. I had some people in the UK who foolishly have told me, if you're ever out here, you could stay at our place. So one of these days I'm going to show up and it's, you know, the outside the door, like, we weren't serious. Specific place. My goodness. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. You get the usual suspects, the Stanley Hotel, and not so much into that, um, but maybe some places in Florida, with St. Augustine, one of the oldest
Mhm.
cities, things like that. And we'll have a chance to do those type of things coming up. I think we're going to head down in September.
Hmm.
But I mean, there are just so many, too many to, that will, it'll never happen, unless there's a lottery winning coming my way sometime soon. But
Never know.
yeah, you never know.
Hmm.
I would love, there's one place in my entire life. I'll try to make this quick. There's one place in my entire life that I've walked into and felt the vibe. Only one, and that's the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Immensely haunted, long history of it. Marilyn Monroe, Montgomery Cliff, all the people who were said to remain there. When I walked in the lobby, it was palpable. You could feel that. If I had one place, that would be the place that I would like to go back, just have the place to myself. Give me 24 hours
Oof.
and full access. I would just absolutely love to go back there and do more
Mhm.
than just
Well,
look
hopefully there's a producer that will make your dream come true.
I know producers in Los Angeles still have nothing to do with me.
I didn't say a producer in Los Angeles, because
Never
they
know.
have their own people that will jump as high as they tell them, and that's
They
not what
need
we need.
someone much younger, handsomer than I, because that's just how the way it works. So I'll be willing, I'll either sneak in or I'll get a job on the crew, one or the other,
There you go. There you go.
whatever it takes.
Well, we're almost at the end of the show. Is there any last words for our audience?
Last words for me are always the same. Everybody just be good to each other, live your best life, take care of each other, and keep asking questions. Go against conventional wisdom. Don't ever stop growing, don't stop swimming. So that would be the message that I would give to everybody. And to you, I can't thank you enough for inviting me tonight, Glenda and LD. You guys are awesome, and hope we can do it again sometime. But I really appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to our audience. Again, thank you for being here, sharing, liking. Don't forget to keep an eye out every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're here. And as always, blessings. And we love you. Bye.